We're gonna get started, and who did I get the first question? Shannon's gonna start, the first question. After each round of questions, we'll give feedback, okay? So if you're not participating, I expect you to be paying attention, to be able to give feedback according to the situation, actual result learning. Did they hit the technique? Did they? Okay? So we'll get started now, and I'm ready to go whenever you are, Shannon.
Alright, think of a time you faced a conflict on a team. How did you handle that?
Sure, go ahead.
Does it have to be like work related or like, for example? Like
You want to translate it into work, but we did talk about if you didn't have a work experience, and I'll put that slide up so you can turn around and see. This is what we talked about. Let's see. What if I had worked in business before? You don't want to give a non-answer, right? You want to make sure you do have an answer. Student job is appropriate. Look at any kind of academic work you've done. You have a team project, team presentation, consider that work, okay? You could look at any academic clubs or anything like that. Does that help?
Yeah.
Okay, help your friend. Anybody else have any questions about what if I haven't had work experience before?
Could we say something like, could we answer this question like sports related? Yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
But, so you're gonna give your response, you're gonna give the situation, what was your role? So, when I was captain of my basketball team in my freshman year, I did this. So, that's the way to talk about the situation, talk about your role, what the issue was, and the issue's already being given to you, right? Shane's kind of framed the issue, so you have to speak to that. So Shane, just for the sake of letting us go, give each one the question so that they don't have to work on remembering it. It can kind of be more of a conversation.
Alright.
Okay?
So you need a question yet?
Yeah.
Alright, think of a time you faced a conflict on a team. How did you handle that?
Okay, so in my team around 4 years ago, I was a captain for my basketball team back at home, and essentially we have like weights twice a week, right? And so like a few members of my team weren't going to weights, and obviously this is an issue when we're all trying to be on the same page and we're all trying to like achieve the same goal. And rather than going to the coach, I like took it in my own hands and confronted the situation myself. I got everyone together and basically said that obviously we need to do it together. We can't have people slacking and not turning up. So obviously the result was that people did end up going to weights, but I didn't want to just dismiss the situation or like put it in someone else's hands. I took my own initiative.
So, ask Ari the next question, it's the same question.
Alright, think of a time you faced a conflict on a team. How did you handle that?
So, like I said, in high school, I was the captain of my basketball team, and we were having some drama, some issues. So, as a captain, me and the other captain, we took it in our hands and we sat down. We like acknowledged the fact that there was an issue, and we didn't just like look past it. And we sat down, everybody, and had a meeting, and we ended up coming to an agreement on the situation. I don't want to be too specific on situations, but yeah, that's
Alright, Pete, think of a time you faced a conflict on a team. How did you handle that?
My freshman year, we were about like 1-7, so we had a team only meeting, and we were talking about what a team should do and like how we should like get us better, like get on track. And I really didn't know what to do. And during that time, I kind of wanted to quit football. Didn't think it was for me, but my action was I just stuck to what the people who were ahead of me I looked up to. I stuck to like what they were doing and just like got through it. And as a result, we ended up being a lot better a year later, just like sticking through it.
Chance, think of a time you faced a conflict on a team. How did you handle that?
Freshman year in my statistics class, our final project was a group project, and it was a three-part project. And so I had two other group members, and we all had a part to do. Me and my other group members did our part, but I had a third group member that didn't do anything. So we had to do his part. We tried to like tell him to step up and do his stuff, but he couldn't do it. So we actually took a hit on the grade for that because of him. But we talked to the teacher after, and we got it fixed out, and we got the better grade. That's it.
And when David told me you faced a conflict on a team, and how did you handle that?
So over summer, I worked at an ice cream parlor on the closing shift, and there was one of our coworkers who was always on her phone during the closing shift, and we were all trying to get out. So what I did was just be direct with her and remind her what we're doing and that we're all on the team. And if we want to leave on time, we have to work together. So I think that worked best.
Great. So let's give them some positive feedback. Good job. First, a little nerve-wracking being the first team out of the gate. So what did they do well? How did they use situation, action, result, or learning?
They all like clearly identified the role they were in.
Yes. What else? Great. Thanks, Wally.
They all talked about like when it was and what the time frame was.
So we got the time frame, that situation set up right at the beginning. So I knew what they were talking about. It wasn't just this nebulous concept. What else? Josh, what did they do well?
They definitely put in what their thought process was in regards to the question, and they definitely put how it contributed in a positive or negative result.
Right. So I heard steps, and we also heard result or something I learned. So the tricky part is taking a negative with somebody who didn't respond, taking that negative to say, well, we continue to work on the conflict, in the next project. Figure out if there's something else you can say that you didn't just drop the ball with that student then and leave them out as a kind of a lost cause, if you will. Whether or not it actually happened, it makes for a better story. Does that make sense? Okay. So it's just a way to kind of help you with that. So let's start, Will has the next question for you. Let's start with Ryan and we'll move down.
Tell me about a time you were dissatisfied with work. What could you have done to make it better?
So I'm in the marching band, and recently with the hurricane, we had barely any practices, and we didn't have enough time to make our show proper. And I was kind of dissatisfied with it. It was kind of thrown together. We didn't have enough time. So I think what I could have done was force my section to practice their music and get it all together and get our stuff down, because if we got our stuff down, it'll look better.
Tell me about a time you were dissatisfied in your work. What could you have done to make it better?
This summer, I landscaped for just a small company, and this guy, my manager, he really was very inconsistent with the times that he wanted me to be ready. So I kind of talked to him, and I told him, I was like, can you just tell me straight up, 7 a.m. to 8 o'clock, like, cause he would kind of just go back and forth and be like, okay, at 9, 11, So I just talked to him, and I just got that figured out, and then it was good from that point forward.
Alright. Tell me about a time you were dissatisfied in your work. What could you have done to make it better?
Well, when I was about 9 years old, my grandfather started letting me mow the grass with him. And the first time I mowed the grass, I didn't really take my time with it. I kind of just sped through it. And then when I got done, my grandfather was like, if you're gonna do something, you gotta do it right, And I was dissatisfied with my work because he made me embarrassed of how I didn't take the time to do it the right way, as you should do everything in life. So I just ended up doing it over again, and I was satisfied with it afterwards, and it's a lesson I can take with me for the rest of my life.
Alright. Tell me about a time you were dissatisfied in your work. What could you have done to make it better?
My senior year of high school, we were playing the second ranked team in Charlotte, and we weren't ranked super high. And we played them, and I ended up scoring. We lost by 20, and I scored 36 of our 60 points. So I felt like I did my part, but if I go back and watch film, I could see that I didn't do my part because I was more focused on scoring because I knew how I was the leading scorer, but that ended up taking away from team ball. It wasn't very cohesive. It was a lot of selfish basketball on my part. So I went back and watched film with my coach, and I went and apologized to my teammates because I feel like we could have had a better chance of winning if I would play with them instead of trying to play by myself.
Alright. Tell me about a time you were dissatisfied in your work. What could you have done to make it better?
Okay, so I'm currently an E1 101 TA, and I feel like at times I don't really have much participation in the classroom. I feel like it's pretty much just like the teacher coordinating it, and I was kind of dissatisfied with this because I want to kind of have an impact on the freshman class and try and put my experiences out there and be more of a role to them. So I went and spoke to with the actual teacher and basically got a bigger role in the class.
Great, nice job. All right, so who wants to start giving some feedback? What did they do well according to the, yes?
They didn't
Alex.
dwell on the negatives in the beginning too much, and all the negatives that you all said were correlated positively.
Yeah, nice job. Not an easy thing to do, right? Nate?
They chose situations that were very clear and easy to understand, that really helped.
I thought so too. What else? Well, what did you think they did well?
Like how they pointed out all the flaws, which they had, and they were dissatisfied with their work, got positive.
So they answered the question, took it seriously. I like that, you know, the first one was about the marching band and the Hurricanes. It's like, okay, here's an issue, but you took it on as a learning that I should have, you know, created an environment where at least my section practiced, and we would have come out looking good. So Pete, the same with you. You were talking about Grandpa mowing the lawn. Got to do it right?
Yeah.
So that's a kind of a key learning that we all need to learn. That takes some humility to admit, but those are really good answers. So what other things besides me talking, Riley?
They like showed what steps they took in order to like fix the situation that they were dissatisfied with.
And what steps did you hear?
Like Pete said about the lawn mowing, like he like uses what his grandfather said like in future situations and like went back and fixed his work.
What other steps did we hear? Remember, the employers are looking for your thought process, so this is an important piece.
Ari said that like she apologized to her teammates and like knew like in the future that she was gonna work in like a cohesive way and something that worked.
Right. And it takes a whole lot of humility to admit that. Say, I wasn't, you know, while I was a high scorer, maybe I was being a selfish team player. And that I've taken it on myself. Now I need to review tapes to see if it was true, to talk with my coach, and then talk with my team. So I think somebody else was talking about inconsistent in communication. I think it was you were talking about that. So you had the face-to-face communication. Please tell me what's expected of me, and from there you had a success. Could have been a little bit tighter with the result of success. So from there we had, you know, on-time starts of the day. Just make it a little firmer, right? Nice job, guys. I really appreciate your participation, and I particularly enjoy the trying to get participation in classes. I was like, I know that. All right, so our next panel, come on down. Can you get back? Okay. All right. Nate, Alex, Lauren, Riley, it's just a worksheet. I think it's helpful to make notes because then I can give feedback because 5 people I might not remember. This is helpful, but also it's teaching you to program, you know, your mind to think this way. We don't always think about results in this way. Okay, so let us, who can I rely on to ask a question? And so we'll start, Pete, why don't we start with Nate and then we'll work our way this way? All right?
Alright, Nate, describe a time when your team or company was undergoing some change. How did that impact you and how did you adapt?
When I was a sales associate at Vineyard Vines, our store was going through a couple of transitions with upper level management and then also with the way the store was laid out. We were also going through a period of renovation. And that was a really turbulent time for our store because we had to adapt to different amounts of apparel, different apparel. Our whole clientele changed in a period of a couple of weeks. But we adapted by training, including myself, we all trained each other based on the way the new store was going to be laid out, the way our current clientele, what they wanted out of the store, and then we also got used to new management by having several team bonding experiences.
Nice. Okay. Describe a time when your team or company was undergoing some change. How did that impact you, and how did you adapt?
I worked at a restaurant over last summer, and in a 3-day period, over half the staff quit, and I was able to figure out a way to do things more efficiently, so we were able to just put in a normal amount of overtime hours without having to close down the store.
Alright. Describe a time when your team or company was undergoing some change. How did that impact you, and how did you adapt?
So this summer I interned for a digital marketing agency, and the week that I started, the project manager quit. So I was assigned a bunch of different tasks for many different clients, which I didn't really know what I was doing. So I had to attend conference meetings and stuff like that to figure out what was our best way of figuring out the situation and how I was gonna help with everything.
Okay.
Camera skills aren't my forte. Okay, go ahead.
Alright, Mark. Describe a time when your team or company was undergoing some change. How did that impact you, and how did you adapt?
So, I worked at a restaurant my senior year of high school, and we had 3 managers, and 2 of them quit. So, the restaurant hired 2 managers that had never worked at that restaurant, and they didn't really know a lot about the food or the employees that were working there. So it was frustrating to have to tell people that were above you how to do their job, but they learned quick, so yes.
Okay, good. Alright, Lauren. Describe a time when your team or company was undergoing some change. How did that impact you, and how did you adapt?
This past summer I worked at a retail store, and the manager was having a baby, or she just had a baby. And so I had to help look for a new manager just to replace her while she was on leave, and also train that manager as well.
So, good job. Let's give them some feedback. So those who have already gone through this process, why don't you guys start? Anna or Ari, do you have any positive feedback to share for them?
I feel like they were.
We'll come back. Pete.
Yeah, I think everyone's answer was pretty concise. No one really rambled too much. It was pretty clear what they were talking about, So you weren't confused. You really got the point of what they were trying to say.
Yeah, you had a situation in mind right from the start. It wasn't, let me think of something. So I thought that was really good. Seemed professional. What else? What else did they do well?
They all gave a problem, and then they all gave
Right. All gave problem. Every single one of them had problem set up, steps they took. Solutions could probably be a little tighter. The Riley, was it the restaurant? It was Marjorie, I'm sorry. So the restaurant, you had to talk to the manager, but make it a little bit stronger that it was a positive result, that we had a productive shift, or the rest of the summer went smoothly with scheduling or whatever. Just make it a little bit stronger so it was it worked out okay. It's too vague, right? What else? Other positives?
I think
Ryan.
they spoke clearly,
Mhm.
projected their voice.
Good diction, could really hear them. So, good use of your vocal cords. Remember your posture. You'll see this in the video when you take a look at it. And again, this is practice to get you to practice the technique. Once you get this down, then you could start to work on some of the other things. Proper diction, good posture. Usually it's better to kind of sit up and lean up. And obviously, you're not going to be wearing a baseball hat when you go to a job interview, unless it's out on a golf course or on a baseball field or something. So, there could be times where you do assistant coaching, and they're going to take you out and see how you interact with kids or something like that. So, but for most part, your demeanor really makes a difference. So, any other positives? Mac, I haven't heard from you today. What did they do well on the SAR?
We didn't talk for too long.
Mhm.
Very quickly.
Good and concise, right? Great, so we'll start with the next question. Who did I give? Okay, we're gonna start, let's start with Nate.
Talk about a time you set a goal for yourself. How did you go about ensuring that you would meet your objective?
A couple of summers ago, I was caddying, and it was you showed up based on how many times you wanted to show up, and it was really hard to motivate yourself to get out in the morning, especially when we had to show up at 5:45 most mornings. So I set a goal of I wanted to get out 50 times that summer, and I was able to accomplish that, and I ended up being in the top 10% of earners of caddies that summer, so that was something I was very proud of.
Talk about a time you set a goal for yourself. How did you go about ensuring that you would meet your objective?
At Elon, I'm in a business cohort and we have a minimum GPA requirement. And at first I thought it was unrealistically high, but I thought that the benefits of remaining in there would be worth it. So I put the extra time in and I was able to remain above the minimum GPA and remain in order.
Talk about a time you set a goal for yourself. How did you go about ensuring that you would meet your objective?
So before I entered freshman year, I knew I wanted to get a job on campus, so I applied for the program called PACE, and when I got to school I had to schedule interviews, and then after that I ended up getting a job.
Talk about a time you set a goal for yourself. How did you go about ensuring that you would meet your objective?
So I currently work at a restaurant at Elon, along with being a student. So each night I go into work, I tell myself there's a certain amount of money I want to make, and when I tell myself that, I usually do better because it makes me work faster and more efficiently for each one of my customers.
Talk about a time you set a goal for yourself. How did you go about ensuring that you would meet your objective?
This past summer, I knew I wanted to do something with my major, maybe not an internship, but just get involved where I was working. And so I networked myself to a lot of my bosses because I was doing 3 different jobs. And the photographer that I worked for eventually had me go on and basically do all her social media for her.
Great, nice job. All right. So who's going to start with the positive feedback? Awesome.
I feel like they all set up their answer very well by explaining exactly what their goal was and then diving into what they did to complete it.
Absolutely. What else did we hear about the goals? Really, really specific, right? What did I hear the first with Nate? There was how many days he wanted to be out caddying, and then you were kind of a high performer because you gave yourself that goal and you achieved. GPA, right? We heard with Alex. Riley, you talked about, did I not write it down? It was, I'm sorry, say again?
A job on campus.
It was a job on campus and you nailed the job. So Marjorie talked about sales, having a sales goal for each night, right? With how much food or tips or whatever you're gonna make. And the same with networking. Maybe, Lauren, you could have been a little bit more specific. I network with 10, 15, 5, whatever that number is. But give out a number when you're talking about a goal to say that you met it. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay, so nice job. Shane, did you have some feedback?
Yeah. I felt like the steps that they took, explaining their goals, I felt like they really stressed the planning process of their goals and gave them kind of motivation to carry out the goal.
Yeah, the goal didn't just happen by itself. There was a plan put in place, right? That's good information for an employer to hear because they know they can rely on you to create a plan of action to meet your goals for a summer internship or a longer term project if you're working past the summer. Any other feedback?
I was going to say it's good that they predominantly didn't start their sentences they kind of went straight into it. Because
there was really no stumbling. It seemed very natural. As a listener to these responses, does it seem formulaic that they're answering in a specific order? It seems formulaic? It doesn't seem genuine? The question is, does it sound like they're being robots? No. So this technique works. It's a good flow. It sets up the listener to hear what did you do, what was your role, who was involved, what steps did you take, what was the result. And that's kind of how people want, break it down for me, right? Would your father appreciate this approach, Chance, in your business? So those types of things can be really helpful. Yes, Alex.
If you're in an interview and you're faced with a question that you can't think of a response from your life
Mhm.
and you're about to be on the spot, is it okay to just completely make something up and create just fill with questions?
You could do
Like,
that.
rather than just
I
sit
would
there
say
and
it's
do nothing.
okay, right? This is a good question. I think what you wanna do is reframe the question. You wanna be able to say, well, say somebody asked me, you know, Alex, tell me about a time that you, exceeded a sales goal. Well, Maria, I've never worked in sales before, but I am focused on meeting and exceeding goals. I set plans for myself, and this is how I would break it down.
Okay.
So you want to frame it in a way that you can answer it to be successful. The people who are bullshitting usually get picked off pretty early on in a day of interviews, because it'll become obvious, because they'll ask you follow-up questions and you're not going to have, you know, any way to support what you just said. So you want to try to be as genuine as you can, and people appreciate it when they say, oh, well, you know, that was kind of an oddball question that we threw at you. But they might have pre-screened for you to have sales experience, and if you come and say, well, I've never sold anything before, they may say, well, we don't necessarily want to have someone come on board who's not afraid of getting their feelings hurt, because sales is really hard, right? You know, you got to just have thick skin and keep asking, you know, every single time. So there may be some pre-screening that should have gone on, but for the most part, I think you should be able to answer these behavioral level questions at the beginning, early on in your internship or career. But if not, reframe it and say, well, I've never had that experience. I can tell you what I can do to meet a target, a goal, what have you. Anybody else have a similar question about that? Yeah? All right. So we'll relieve you for the next panel. Good job. The next round. So we need one more person to join us. Who hasn't gone yet? So I have Mac, Javon, Will, and Shane? Okay. Okay, well, I didn't know. Didn't get the memo. All right, so we'll start with let's see. Anna, would you ask the first question? And let's see. Alex, would you ask the second? So, can you see both of my heads? Okay. So, we'll start with Will, and we'll move down. And we'll be looking for your feedback, so let's give him our attention here. Okay.
Okay, so talk about a time when you had to rely on written communication to get your ideas across to your team.
So currently I'm in a business, I think we get rid of business class, and we're like doing Biz Cafe, and you like kind of operate your own business thing. And there were 2 cases I had to make business decisions, and 2 of my 4 team members were away. Like, I don't know where they were exactly, they didn't tell us, but we communicated via email. And I was actually quite successful, so the 3 members, myself and the other 2 who were available, met up and we actually emailed each other. And we got our decisions done on time, and we ended up making a profit for that week. Pretty good.
Okay, so talk about a time when you had to rely on written communication to get your ideas across to your team.
So in my marketing simulation for my marketing class, 3 of the people in my group are athletes, and a lot of the time they travel for the weekends, and the simulations are on Wednesdays and Saturdays, and they're either at practice or away for the weekend, so we have to communicate through GroupMe or just convey your ideas through text or any sort of written communication. It's difficult to get the job done, but as long as you get the job done.
Talk about a time when you had to rely on written communication to get your ideas across to your team.
So last year I was working on a group presentation in my Spanish class with a girl in my class, and she got stuck at home from the snow, and so we had to do the whole oral presentation all over text and on a shared Google slide. So that was really hard because obviously we were going to be talking in the presentation, but we communicated really well over text and FaceTime, and we did well in our presentation.
Talk about a time when you had to rely on written communication to get your ideas across to your team.
So last year I had a science project with a bunch of my group members, and we could never find time to meet up. So I suggested that a bunch of us just get together mostly whenever you could, and we work on the project together. Whenever one of us would meet up, we'd do one slide, and then when you had to leave, another person would come in and they'd do their slide, and so on and so forth.
Great. Okay, Shem. All right, so let's start with the feedback. Why don't we start with our panel over here? What did they do well with the use of the technique?
They involve steps.
What steps do you remember?
Communicate by email.
Okay. What else? What else did they do well?
I feel like it's a tough question, and I feel like they definitely used like actual current situations. I don't know, you could interpret it in different ways. I don't know, you could talk about resumes, all this stuff, I don't know. But I mean, I feel like it's really relevant talking about group projects or situations where you have had to rely on email and stuff like that. So I feel like they're all pretty good answers in that context.
Yeah, and Will started off with talking about a project that people were in different places, and you were surprised you were very successful, and it worked out great. So let us know what that result was. We got a good grade on the project, or it was successful. I think you did tell us you made a killing that week. You had a good profit, right? $200. Oh. Is it all phony money?
Yeah,
It's
it's
like fantasy baseball. Okay. So that's what you want to get to. You want to make sure that that result is really clear. What else did they do well? We talked about the steps involved, right? So Matt kind of said, well, they used email. What other they used? Google sharing. If you rehearsed, doing FaceTime or Skype, that would be another step that you could say that how we use that. But that's getting away from the question of what did you do to use written communication. So that was the question, indeed, wasn't it?
Yes.
About written? Yeah. So, all in all, I think a pretty good showing. All right. What's our next round of questions? Who's got that? Oh, Alex. Sorry.
Tell me about a time you were under a lot of pressure. What was going on, and how did you get through it?
What am I doing again?
We'll start with Josh. So give him the question again.
Tell me about a time you were under a lot of pressure. What was going on, and how did you get through it?
So this year, we had our first build, maybe even 2-3 weeks ago, and I was the first one to sign up for the build, and they gave us no information beforehand, like no idea of how to reach the people, have no idea what happens if you need a car, or what happens if someone like shoots a nail through their foot. Like that wouldn't happen in real life, but so what I did was I had to get in touch with the leader of Habitat for Humanity. I had to get in touch with the person who gave us the build site. I had to get in touch with the people who gave me a car and make sure that everything was in place for the build, even though I was super stressed out about how many people I was supposed to be watching out for during that day.
Okay. Very clear. So Alex, give her the question again.
Tell me about a time you were under a lot of pressure. What was going on, and how did you get through it?
So over the summer, I worked as a sailing instructor, and so obviously that's a lot of pressure because you're responsible for people's kids. And on this day, I was working with someone who wasn't as experienced, and it was really windy, and all the kids were really upset. But I just had to maintain my composure and be really calm, and I wasn't afraid to ask for help. So I called my boss, and she sent someone out to help me, and then we ended up making it back, and everything was okay.
Tell me about a time you were under a lot of pressure. What was going on, and how did you get through it?
Earlier this year, I got an email from my advisor about declaring my major, which I hadn't done yet, which was a problem. And I was under a lot of pressure to do that and didn't know if that was actually what I wanted to do, so I ended up having to do a lot of reflection, talk to a lot of people, upperclassmen, alumni, just to see what they were doing and how they liked it, so I ended up changing my major and it actually ended up working out great.
Tell me about a time you were under a lot of pressure. What was going on and how did you get through it?
So in my like final year of secondary school, high school, I was doing my A-level exams. So like the exams are spread over like 4 weeks, and in England it's like you have one shot. That's like it. You can't like retake stuff. So I was under a lot of pressure studying for all those, but equally, right in the middle of my exams, we had a rugby game against the best team in the country. So I was doing a lot of training for that, along with I was still doing my American applications. So I was swamped. But like what I did was, so I did a lot of I got like my teammates together who were on the rugby team with me, and like after practice we'd study for like whatever exam, like classes we were in together. So I got like my study time in. I still went to all my training sessions, and I went to like the American Council of my school to get my American application done. I ended up getting straight A's in my A levels. Got into America obviously, but we lost the rugby game. That was a huge down.
Huge blow.
Huge down, but 2 out of 3 I'll take it.
Right. So good job. So who wants to start with feedback? Lauren, what did they do well?
I think everyone addressed the situation really well and was very specific, talking about that situation, and they all ended in like a positive way.
Yeah, good specificity, taking that negative and turning it into a positive. What else did they do well?
You know, handle the situation like how they should be handled in a positive way.
That's a good tangible steps. So, Josh, what I heard from you on Habitat, methodical, made sure that we had a plan in place if someone were to get hurt, not show up, what have you. So those steps are really important. I'll be listening for those steps. Mary Claire, you said the same thing with the kids. You had to really work with them to keep them on track even though it was a windy day and they were a little disappointed. So strategies to use to turn it into a positive. Declaring your major, talking to upperclassmen and women and alumni. So what did you end up choosing?
This was actually like 2 weeks ago, just for the sake of the story, I said it was earlier, but I changed to policy studies like last week.
Okay. So finish with the result that you didn't just say you selected a major, but
okay.
tell everybody what it is that makes sense. And the same, Will, you did great with, here's what's going on, A levels, exams, rugby training, pressure was on, and you had a great result. Not only got your straight A's on your exams, but got into an American university and unfortunately lost the rugby game. So I like that you didn't put the rugby game first in terms of the loss, because it's better to focus on those academic achievements and then focus on the sport, unless you're going to be a professional rugby player. What else? What other feedback can we give them? All right. Well, go ahead, Anna. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, really they like explain why it was a pressure situation, or like why it was such a negative, not just saying, oh, this happened, but just like kind of like the impact it had on them, like this.
So what would you have said, for instance?
My
if you're thinking like, how did that pressure affect them? Like, how would you have handled it differently?
No, I think they did a good job.
Oh, I thought you were saying it was, they should have talked more. I was like, I got it, but they're getting a lot.
Oh, no, I was saying like, it's good they didn't just say it, they stated how it affected them. Like,
oh, I understand. Okay, I thought you said they did not say. Never mind, I misunderstood. All right, guys, thank you very much. And our next victim. So this will mean everybody will have had a chance. All right.
Yes.
Oh,
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely. Let's see what I have left. Good one. Which one did I? Which one is that?
Describe a time when you saw the problem and took initiative to correct it rather than blame someone else.
That's a good one. We already talked about that in the past, but that's a good one. This one's kind of like. All right. So Marjorie's gonna start. Marjorie, why don't we start with Shane? And you guys are paying attention so you can give feedback, correct? Okay. And feel free to use this as a note-taking device. It's quite helpful. Shane's gonna get us started whenever you're ready.
Okay, Shane, describe a time when you saw a problem and took the initiative to correct it, rather than waiting for someone else to do it.
Okay, so last year I worked at a pizzeria, and I was just one of the older people working there. There's a lot of like fresh